Welcome to Hartslight Kids, where kids shine bright. Guess what time it is? It's story time! Yay! I am excited because I have two guests today. I have Charlotte and I have her beautiful, talented, lovely daughter, Willow Taylor. And Willow is going to help us learn what happens to twigs in this next chapter. Are you ready, Willow?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm ready to find out what is going to happen with twigs. Let's find out.
Okay.
Chapter 8. Alone is a lonely place to be. The next morning, Twigs woke with a fright before reality set in, and she remembered where she was. She'd crawled into a dark tree hollow sometime in the early hours of the morning, and she'd had a restless sleep. At least she'd been warm, as the hollow was also a grey squirrel's home, and its furry full tail made a cosy bed. Once she managed to snuggle in without waking the creature. Now it chattered at her, shaking its fist at her rudeness and assumption that she could share its home, even if only for one night. As the squirrel dashed out into the daylight, Twigs put her head in her hands and wept. Why didn't they understand that none of it was her fault? If Pebble had been silly enough to walk into her spiderweb trap last week, was that her fault? She couldn't help it if Penelope was extra jumpy, or if Clara had butterfingers, or if Fabian was easy to steal food from, or if she sighed. It didn't matter now. She needed to find a way to show them that they were wrong and that they should allow her to come home. She crept out onto the moss-covered branch. It was gnarly and twisted, and she hadn't realized in the night's darkness how deep into the forest she'd fled. Never before had she ventured this far, and she wasn't sure that she was still even in Fairy Forest, as she didn't recognize any of its dark, dank features. She scuttered down the moist tree trunk, still damp from the early morning dew. The moment she dropped to the stony forest floor, she paused and listened. She half hoped to hear fairies calling her name, coming to find her to explain that the Queen had changed her mind, but no. All she could hear were the usual woodland sounds. She kicked at a nearby rock, immediately regretting her decision when her big toe throbbed in pain. Looking around her, Twigs took a deep breath to steady her nerves and then chose the path that veered off to the left. It looked the least shadowy out of the three choices she had in front of her, but that didn't cheer her any. She had no idea where she was, no plan for where she was heading, and no single person in the world who seemed to care what became of her. Her eyes started to prickle, so Twigs gave her head a firm shake, jutted out her chin, and strode on. Several hours later, she wandered into a little copse. Exhausted, she sat down on a nearby log to rest. Reaching into her bag, she retrieved the small, dried-out berries she managed to steal from an unobservant hedgehog and popped them into her mouth one at a time. Yuck! They were bitter and chewy, nothing like the delicious, plump, juicy berries they had back in Fairy Forest. No, Twigs said to the trees around her. There's no point thinking of yesterday when I don't even know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Swallowing the remaining berries with a grimace, she got up, turned back to the path, and promptly fell into a hidden hole. Bump, 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 she descended until she landed painfully on her back, upside down amongst the draggy sticks and sharp stones. There she lay for some time, downcast and defeated, knowing that she was alone, completely, undoubtedly, utterly alone. And finally, she knew she had only herself to blame.
Very well
Lovely,
done.
well done.
You are a very good reader. I was
Thank you.
impressed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What grade are you in, Willow?
Oh gosh, now she's 8, so because the grades differ. So she's in year 4 of the English system. So I've got a feeling that's grade 3.
Grade 3, should be grade 3.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Trying to work that one out on the
Are the
spot.
others in grade 3?
Okay, so chapter 9, a step towards self-discovery. When Twigs rolled over to face the right way up, she gingerly tested her limbs. Although she ached all over, she believed herself to be free of broken bones. Fabian's face came to mind, and she quickly shut it out. Getting to her feet, she hobbled over to the side of the deep hole. She could see that the sky way up in the far distance was laced with dusk. She could scarcely hear the wind blowing through rustling leaves or the evening chorus being sung by the woodland birds from the highest branches of the trees. Even though night was creeping closer, Wicks didn't fancy spending any more time down in the dark hole, so she felt around the walls of the chamber in the hope of finding some way to escape her earthy prison. Moments later, her fingers caught hold of something tough and sinewy. Roots! She tugged hard and decided they felt strong enough to use as a climbing aid. Swallowing her fear, she shimmied up the wall, allowing each foot to find a safe purchase before she searched for the next foothold, and the next, and the next. Then, as she went to grasp the roots a little higher up, her foot slipped and her body was thrown against the wall. Her already bruised ribs took another assault, and the pain was enough for her to let go and plummet to the bottom of the hole once again. Ah! She yelled in frustration, pounding the ground with her fists. Battered and bruised, she curled up in a ball on her uninjured side and turned her head to gaze up at the sky above. So there she is hiding in the hole.
Oh, she's way down there in that hole.
She is. And the sky above, which was now peppered with bright stars. She calmed herself by searching for all the constellations that she knew, naming them aloud to feel less alone. There's Cassiopeia, Cepheus, Draco, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and Aquila and Cygnus and Lyra. She recited to herself the names that fairies had taught humans eons ago. They did, indeed, seem like old friends. They seemed like her only friends. Feeling self-pity, Twigs wondered if she should even bother to try and escape the hole. In her wallowing, she reasoned that she'd be doing the Feyworld a favour by disappearing forever, and it might also give her some peace at long last if she were to die down here. She didn't believe anyone would mourn her or even miss her. As she rested the side of her tired face on her upper arm and closed her eyes, she allowed the depressing thought to wash over her while she lost herself to her insecurities. She also considered Clara's painful accusations of them being done with her. Had she created a self-fulfilling prophecy of being alone because she always pushed people away before they could hurt her? Is this why she didn't give them a chance to be needed by her? The thought was unsettling. Twigs spent the remainder of the night trying to get comfy, although sleep kept evading her. Soon she gave up on that idea and took to staring at the sky again. So it was that she saw dawn break on the next day, and with the rising sun came a new hope in her mind that maybe she could fix this after all. With a ferocious determination, she attempted once more to ascend the roots to the ground level above. Many times she slipped, but she simply gritted her teeth, ignored the searing pain in her side, and kept going. The muscles in her shoulders felt like they were tearing by the time her hand grasped at the foliage around the entrance to the hole. As she hauled herself up and out, she flopped, exhausted, onto her back and stared up at the blue, cloudless sky. This vast, ever-changing vista had seen her through the night and given her hope when she was ready to quit. With a newfound optimism, she felt quite invigorated and ready to face the challenges in front of her. She jumped to her feet, brushed herself down, and peered ahead. She had no idea where she was, but if she kept going in the same direction, then surely she had to come across someone who'd point her in the direction of home. So there we go. There's the end of chapter 9.
Wow, that is such a fun book. Every time I'm like, what's going to happen next? I can't wait till next week. And I know
You're not
all
allowed
the
to tell
boys
them.
and girls that are watching are also really excited to find out what happened the next week. So I can hardly wait until next week what's going to happen. And we'll see you next week again, boys and girls. And Willow, thank you for doing such an amazing and awesome job reading that book. I hope
Thank
you
you.
come back another time and maybe read us another chapter. That be fun? We'd love to
Yeah.
have you do that.
Definitely.
All right. See you next week, boys and girls.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.